I want something pretty to hang over my fireplace mantle because currently it's full of holes. It is in desperate need of a paint job, but I really don't have the time to go and paint a bunch of walls and do a bunch of that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna waste my time on another project. I'm going to restore an old forgotten canvas that I actually found stashed in the basement of this house when we bought it. This is the canvas I'm talking about, which I will then hang over the mantle of my fireplace. Pretty much just give it some new life in this space. I'm gonna take this old canvas with a big fat hole in it and turn it into gorgeous living room decor. So we're gonna see what kind of upcycling magic we can do with this bad boy. How big is this thing? It's just over 5 feet tall and about 2.5 feet wide. What I'm envisioning is something textural, a white textural background. Sounds simple enough. The back of this canvas is stapled shut into the frame. So I actually can't remove this canvas without a lot of extra force on my behalf. Also, the back of this canvas is disgusting! I think I'm just gonna do a shortcut instead. Spray paint frame itself white. If a little bit gets onto the canvas itself, that's okay because it's all gonna get covered with some sort of textural compound. Pray for me. Since I was out of paint, I put the painting in the garage and noticed something interesting on the frame. So naturally, I pulled it out. Turns out these are plastic inserts? If anyone knows what this is, please comment and educate me because I have no idea what the hell these were. But as luck would have it, since I removed all the inserts, it was much easier for me to just pry apart the frame and free the canvas from its wooden prison. Bye bye, ugly frame. So that was a little easier than I thought it would be to remove the frame, which is great news because I don't have to worry about an ugly frame. We're cleared of the old junk, and now it's time for texturizing. Exhibit A. She is ready to start texturizing. The trick that I saw to do this is really simple. It seems like you just need joint compound and some sort of trowel. Trough or trowel? Trough is what you eat in. Trowel is what you spread with. Trowel. Kind of spread it around in a pattern that makes some sort of sense to you. You let it dry, then you paint on top of it, and then it's done. Sounds simple. Hopefully it actually is. I think what I'm gonna actually do is not only just put the joint compound on the top here, but also put it on the sides. If I can just skip the step of framing this, I'd like that option. Here we go! So the first thing I got is the all-purpose joint compound. I've had them for several projects around the house. Figured I might as well use it for this one too. And I got some plaster spreaders. Yeah, we'll go with that. These are really good for just taking large swaths of that plaster and just putting it right on the surface of the canvas. I don't have any of those special trots that have little angles or, you know, divots in it. I honestly don't want to go too trendy with this because, I don't know, I like to be original here. That's, apparently that's the motto here. We want to be original in some way or another. Let's go ahead and start doing this joint compound. Oh God, what am I doing? I'm just gonna glob this on. This on my shirt. Nope, we're good. I also heard a trick about spraying this so this keeps it from drying too fast and cracking. That's a big old clump. Well, now that I'm sufficiently covered in this stuff, let's do this. Very, very messy. At some point, I needed to transfer this canvas to the floor because the joint compound was super heavy and was weighing down the canvas where it wasn't supported by its wooden frame. This canvas was definitely not very tight. I really don't know how old it was, but the canvas itself was kind of bouncing like a trampoline every time I would add more plaster to it. So yeah, that can definitely be a problem with cracking, so I had to be very careful with how hard I pressed. But eventually, I decided to ditch the tools and just use my hands and fingers to spread that plaster around.
This was so much more satisfying and made me feel like I was really putting in my own artistic spin to the canvas.
So it's 2 days later, my joint compound has finally dried. This guy is now ready for paint. I went out and got some spray paint that's white. I really just want to focus on the texture and really let that shine in the space instead of adding colors and whatnot. Let's go outside and get spray painting. Man, it is cold out there. There was a little bit of cracking that started happening as I was moving the canvas around. I hope that doesn't really affect anything. As with art, the unexpected always happens. It's up to you to just make it happen. So I'm gonna let the paint dry and then we're gonna hang this puppy up. Now taking a look at the back of this canvas, it does need some serious rewiring because whatever this is not gonna cut it. I'm gonna use this picture wire hanger. It can hold up to 30 pounds, which I think we're well within the threshold. I wanna say this canvas with the joint compound on it, maybe edging in on 8 pounds. 11 pounds, baby. This wire will be more than sufficient. Because of how heavy this is, I don't trust the typical picture nails that go into the wall. So to hang this, I'm gonna probably use some drywall anchors, do 2 of those so that I can get extra insurance that this thing is not gonna fall down and break everything. Now, normally, this is where I would say the project is over. Congratulations, great job, pop open 7 bottles of wine and have yourself a night. But after living with this painting over my mantle for several days, something kept bugging me about it. And I figured out what it was. The spray paint did not completely cover the surface, and because this was so white, I had a hard time picking up the textures during most times of the day. So depending on how the light would hit this, I either would get a painting that looked super splotchy or looked like it was an entirely blank, boring canvas. No, I said I wouldn't do it, but I needed to go in and add some color. I decided to hit this with some gold metallic paint, going for like a dry rub technique to hopefully add a little bit of color to the peaks and ridges without completely changing the overall color of this painting. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. Oh, I hate it. Yeah, that didn't work. This looks so ugly. I want to tear my eyes out. If I had thought this through the first time, we wouldn't be in this situation. Here we are. It just looks like when you look up into the ceiling and there's stucco work and it repeats and repeats and repeats and makes you want to throw up. There needs to be some form of rest to the eyes, areas that just don't have much texture. Then I think I'm going to add in like one sweeping element to add like a focal point. Instead of using spray paint and dealing with splotchiness, I decided to just use some leftover plain white paint and primer that we had from a previous house project. First, I'm giving this canvas an all-white coverage before going in with a little bit of color to accentuate and highlight the major grooves of the plaster. I learned my lesson about adding way too much color all at once, instead adding it in slowly but surely using silver metallic paint, which I find is not too far from the white that I'm using, so blending that ever so nicely, I can actually be very subtle with it and hopefully give this piece more of a focal point for the eye to grab onto. And by sheer dumb luck and the grace of all that is good in this world, this textured painting is finally done. It's beautifully subtle thanks to the gray paint. It creates an almost marble appearance that was totally unintentional, but I actually really love it. If there is one thing I learned from this process, surprises and unexpected failures are integral for every artist and their process. You just need to keep going. I'm done with this.